Hi.
Hello there.
It's 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm Tanana Reeve-Dew.
And I'm Stephen Barnes.
And this is week 5 of the new Soulmates process. We're calling it the Soulmates Journey. This is the culmination of our 5-week seminar on how to prepare yourself and how to find your soulmate. So this week we'll be recapping what we've been over and take questions and give advice.
Understand that everybody who's watching this will have a workbook, transcripts, things of that nature. So we'll go over these things rapidly because I think that some of you have noticed this is not plug and play. This is not easy. It's not a little bag of tricks. This is the question: how do we best organize ourselves, our minds and hearts, in order to be healthy animals? I mean, as we were saying, that most of the tricks, the pickup artist tricks and the make a man fall in love with you type tricks are designed to imitate simply being a healthy human being.
Yeah.
So
you want to actually be the healthy human being.
Exactly. So this is a life path, and we've given you tools, but you'll be able to find your own tools too. I mean, the most important concept was given to you in the first week, which is to love yourself.
Right, and it's easier said than done. So if you really desperately want to love yourself but feel like you're not there yet, don't worry. It takes time. It takes working at it and journaling, sometimes therapy, which we always recommend for people who are really struggling. Please do seek out professional
You have
counseling.
a resource circle, people who can help you. We're not therapists, we're coaches.
Right, we're coaches.
So what we want to do, hello Grant, and hello Ruth, and hello Annie, and Tom, and Pete, and Tish. My God, it's so wonderful to see you guys here.
Yes.
And I hope you understand how hard we're trying to give you the core of what it is that we see in this. So let's, I'm going to put our faces up there.
You're just going to have to stare at us this week.
Yeah, you're going to have to stare at us because this week, this is conversation. So as your questions come up, as we go over things, your questions come up, we'll answer those. We have some questions that people have been asking over weeks. But the important thing is to recognize that the path you're on day by day, week by week, is taking you where you want to go.
Yes.
If it's not taking you where you want to go, change direction. It only takes a little change, maintained constantly, in the exact same way that people don't get fat or usually don't get broke overnight. It's usually a matter of small decisions, small actions over longer periods of time that seemed harmless at the beginning. And then, multiplied over years turns into something drastic, health-threatening. The same thing is true, though, of healthy behaviors. Small behaviors done consistently over time will take you where you want to go. And if you start by loving yourself, then you've already got the thing that you want from a relationship anyway. So you don't have to worry about that.
That's true. It's that trick you play on yourself where you get to the point where you love yourself so much you're like, I don't really need a relationship.
Yeah, and curiously enough,
well, you still actually really do want a relationship.
It's the God, in the martial arts, there is this notion that if you try to preserve your life, you will die. That you have to trust the skills that you've gained up until that point. Then you give your life away and you go into battle. And what happens is the people who have most given their lives away, who care the least for their lives, are the ones who fight most ferociously and the ones who walk out of the battle alive. It is a contradiction. Here, it's that, there's a line in the movie Broadcast News that I often use. It's that, wouldn't it be great if needy were a turn on? Okay. Mm. The truth is, it's not. No. Desperation.
And it shouldn't be for you either, by the way. So don't feel like you're the needy one in this equation. You know how it is when you meet a new person and you think there might be something, but there's just too much energy baking off. You're not matched in terms of what you need from each other.
And in terms of what we're saying is, you start by loving yourself.
Yes.
So you don't need anybody else. What you do is you are open to want someone.
Right.
You to want someone to be in your bed, in your life, walk by your side. That's wonderful. But when you feel like you need them, that desperation will attract either other broken people or predators.
No, you don't want that.
No, you do not want that.
When I went through the process of learning to love myself, I got so good at it as I mentioned in week 1, that I was like, wow, being single is kind of great. I get to live by myself. The only noise I hear is noise I'm generating. I watch what I want when I want. There's no one messing up my house but me. But of course, I met Steve and I decided, hey, it was worth it to have another relationship. But I wasn't in a place where I was feeling desperate for a relationship when I met him, although I was open to a relationship.
And I've never stopped loving myself, but I did go through a period where I wasn't sure that I could satisfy my physical needs as easily as I wanted to. So there was some desperation, some testing, some experimentation there. But as soon as I understood that I could have sex basically whenever I wanted it, that's when it stopped meaning anything. Just the idea of sex without that emotional connection started meaning nothing. It actually began to repulse me. And it was at the point where I was able to, as I said, drop to my knees and pray and say, you know, God, I understand this game. I see how to win this game. I don't want to play this game. I want an actual life partner. And if it takes waiting for the rest of my life, that's what I'm willing to do. Now, notice something. I did not end up waiting years. I honestly could not tell you that I would have, you know, been celibate or anything else. I don't know. I know that at that moment, though, I was totally willing to.
I was for a year or a year and a half.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes women will be accidentally celibate.
Look,
you know?
if I had been in sexual relationships that had hurt me, they were bad, I would have said, no, celibacy is better than this.
Right.
You know, but it wasn't that those relationships were bad. They just didn't feed what I was looking to have fed. They weren't giving me what I was looking for, which is to feel like half of something.
Right. And when we talk about celibacy, remember, just to clarify for those of you who might not have heard us have this conversation before, it's not coming from a sex negative position. I, as a young single person and to this day, greatly enjoy having sex. So it's not about that. It is with you, darling. With you. It was more about the fact that having sexual partners who were not romantic partners enabled me to sort of create a phony relationship. So I had
fantasy relationship.
Yeah, the sexual non-romantic partner, the platonic friend, and the impossible crush. When I put all three of them together, I felt like I had a whole life, you know, in terms of my emotions.
Right.
So really it was to take out that component of my search that was the sexual partner where it wasn't leading anywhere, where I wasn't expecting it to, he wasn't expecting it to. It's like, why am I taking this energy that I could be storing up for my soulmate and confusing myself by giving it to other people?
Now, in the book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, there's a chapter called The Miracle of Sex Transmutation. And what he basically says is that when you have learned to take the same impulse you have towards having physical sex, he says that faith, love, and sex combined make this amazing force. And that when you learn how to take your desire for sex and attach that to your desire for wealth, you have just become something unstoppable. So
the same thing works with love.
The same thing works with love. Absolutely.
Right. So take that energy.
That if you say, if you take everything it takes to get everything you want is everything you've got. If you take the sexual energy, the emotional energy, the physical energy, and you all put that behind, I want to create a life that is satisfying to me, that is deep and meaningful to me. I want to create a nest. I mean, the single biggest determinant between guys who are considered attractive and those who are having problems is that they own their own house. Take a look at the incels. They're living in mom's basement quite often. They don't have a nest. Every bird in the forest knows you have to have a nest. So, get back, make sure you've got that animal stuff taken care of. Then you make sure you have your emotional stuff taken care of. Or you can start with the emotions first. That's okay. You can start with the emotions or you can start with the physical. Either one of those, okay. But never start with just this vision of finding someone and you're going to be soulmates before you've taken care of that basic, are you healthy emotionally and are you independent as a hunting animal or at least a gathering animal? If you've got your animal stuff together and your emotional human stuff together, then the spiritual things have a basis. And I know too many people who are chasing around after their spiritual realities, but they haven't grounded themselves emotionally and they haven't grounded themselves physically. So, they're saying, well, why can't you see how wonderful I am? Why won't you look past these external things? Well, if you're willing to look past those external things, you can find someone else who's willing to look past the external things. But if you want the external things, then you better bring some external things. I mean, frankly, I wanted a certain amount of physical attractiveness, a certain amount of intellectual acuity, a certain amount of emotional drive towards excellence. Those are the things I wanted in a partner that I needed in order to feel connected.
Go on.
No, so if I'm not willing to offer those things, I cannot demand them.
Yeah, and I was just doing a little research because I couldn't remember the name of the show. There's a pretty good show on Hulu now about the single life when you're looking for love without self-love first, called Shrill. I don't know if anyone's heard about this. A lot of people on my Twitter timeline were tweeting about it, so I checked out the pilot. It stars Adie Bryant from Saturday Night Live, and I was cringing through most of the show because it reminded me so much of my single days. This character has so little love and esteem for herself because of her weight. That's in her case, that's her issue. All of us have different reasons that sometimes we don't love ourselves. Sometimes it's our past and sort of the way we see ourselves. Sometimes it's the physical body, or it might be a disability. So she's willing to take so much less than she deserves. And of course, her best friend, played by, she sounds like a British actress named Lolly Adefope, I'm just guessing on that last name, is her friend trying to bring her back around to loving herself. So if you watch Shrill and you see yourself on that show, you still have work to do.
So let's take a look back over the pieces of the puzzle and see whether or not there's anything that either you are going to ask us questions about, or that we remember, or that people have asked us. Okay. So we start with the definition of a soulmate, and Tananarive's definition is slightly different from mine. But it's that long-lasting relationship, that deep connection. It's that person to move through, that you could potentially move through life.
We recommend one at a time. We're not experts on polyamory. No. So if that's your thing, this is, there are different dynamics.
If you've mastered the basic one, then you move up to the more complex one.
Right. But we're talking about one-on-one. It's not gender-based. It's just two people, two adults who love each other, who are sexually attracted to each other, and who feel like they could spend the rest of their lives together. That's a lot. Well, that's what a soulmate is. That does not mean it's the only person you'll ever meet who makes you feel that way. So if you've had and lost love, there's no reason to feel despair that you'll never have it again. You'll never have that relationship again. But both of us do believe that you can find someone else.
Well, the thing to remember is that you didn't want the relationship. You wanted the feelings you got from being in the relationship. Those feelings came from inside you.
That's true.
So once you learn to connect there, then you realize that you can take better care of yourself than you can in a relationship with someone who's unsuitable. You're better off alone by far.
Or someone you've lost if you're going through grief,
Yes.
Once you've gone through those stages of grief, once you're ready to open your heart again, you can have love again.
So let's take a look. So remember, we're into what's called stochastic matchmaking. That means that we're not going to tell you how to win a particular person. We're going to tell you how to be the kind of person that people want to be with, the kind of person who can have a relationship. That will increase your odds of being able to be in a relationship, rather than saying, well, you're in love with this one person. What do I do? I'm in love with that person. What do I do? Well, what you do is you see if that is reciprocated, if the relationship looks like it could actually be a healthy one and go forward. And if not, if you really care about that person, don't you want them to be happy? If you can't say, even though you feel grief, go with God. I hope that life is kind to you, to this person. Then you never really loved them in the first place. You just loved what you thought they could do for you.
And, you may be the one on the other side of that. I just talked to someone I know.
You will be.
Who's in the situation where they feel much more strong, or the partner feels much more strongly than they do. And this person is aware that the partner feels much more strongly. And my advice is always, are you sharing? Are you being honest? Because if one person is looking for lasting love and you're just there kind of hanging out until you find lasting love, that's not really fair. To lead another person on like that. And that's the kind of behavior that can come back at you, and it's not fun.
Now, if the first one is love yourself, Then the next one is really about expanding your definition of self to be able to include at least one other person.
Right.
So the second step is to love at least one other person and to admit that you want another person brought into your life. To be able to make that admission takes risk, because now there is the risk of being hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's risky out there. So that's why you must love yourself first, so that you have a safety net of love to fall back on when you inevitably hit disappointment.
Depending on how badly damaged you've been, how hard it has been for you to open your heart to anyone, including another creature, some of you may want to start with pets. I'm serious, Yeah, a cat or a dog, much more demanding of time, needs daily walks. Can't leave them alone for several days like you can a cat. I mean, this is not an official soulmate relationship, but if you're really a hermit, where you have to learn the habit of even interaction with another living creature, starting with a pet could be something on the road to soulmates, I think.
That's a really interesting idea.
I know, I try to keep it interesting with something new all the time. So.
That's indeed you do. So the tools for self-love would be things like heartbeat meditation, which is basically just sitting for between 10 and 15 and 20 minutes, listening to your heartbeat, feeling it. You can start here at your pulse point.
I use fingertips like this and just wait until I can feel my pulse with my fingertips.
If you relax enough, the cat mute on cue. If you relax enough, you should be able to feel your pulse around your body. That relaxation is a beautiful thing, and focusing on the heartbeat takes you into what we use as a symbol of love. It's also the connection to our mother's heartbeat that we felt in the womb. Mm-hmm. It is a place of peace and joy and relaxation, no matter how you look at that. The other thing, of course, is the ancient child meditation, and everybody who signed up for this should have gotten a free copy of that meditation. We'll make sure that that's posted over in the group. Everyone should have that. It's a way of taking that love that you have within yourself and giving it to another being, or finding that love in your protectiveness towards that other being, and then being able to connect it back with you, since in essence you are falling in love with yourself. It is that sense of protection that is innate within us, it is wired within us, that we sometimes lose as adults. Just, people who have been distanced from their own hearts, their own bodies. So defining that you want another person then leads you to that core soulmate process, which is to write out very carefully everything that you want in a partner, finding people who come as close as possible to what you've said, and finding out what is it that they're looking for in a partnership. Now, once again, in order to do this, you need enough love for yourself to get over your nervousness.
And it will look different for different people.
That's
Steve's approach was to literally interview someone. I know I would have felt really uncomfortable asking a man, so what are you looking for? He was already married or in a relationship. I mean, I wouldn't have done it with the shimmy, but in my mind, he would have seen me doing it with the shimmy. So how do you replicate that if you don't want to embarrass yourself? Studying couples, reading up on couples.
Reading interviews, just looking at what did they marry?
If you have longtime friends, that would be best. Like longtime friends who've been married for a long time, and you could see yourself with the other. This is the awkward part, asking your friend, hey, do you mind if I ask your husband what he wanted in a soulmate? But if they're friends, you can do it, and it won't sound
And here's the whole thing. If you can't do any of those things, then define the person as clearly as possible. And that includes their physical. It includes their career. It includes their education, everything that you really want, because what people do is they cut themselves short. They don't ask for what they really want. They ask what they think they can get because they're afraid of being disappointed. No, go ahead, ask for everything you want. Then ask yourself, am I that? Head out towards being that. As you are on your way to that, working on that, at least in the physical, mental, and the emotional aspects, you will meet people who are at your own level of development. If you deeply love yourself, you will see yourself in them and realize this is another person who could be walking this path with me.
And I want to go back to your earlier point. Don't compromise. Make a list. So that was a big part of one of our earlier sessions, was making your list of what you're looking for in your partner.
We gave you lists of questions. You've already got those, so we won't go over those again. But just understand that the basic idea is that a lion needs a lioness. A lioness needs a lion. If your heart is, if your heart really yearns for a hard body who's earning $150,000 a year and sings when they get out of bed every morning, then you do the best. You ask yourself, how could I max myself out within the limitations of what I am at this phase in my life? Everybody gets dinged up as they go through life. Sure. Everybody gets scarred up as they go through life. If you can understand that, if you can forgive yourself for not being perfect, you're going to be able to look at another human being and say, I see perfection in you. I see the child that you used to be. I see your potential. We're traveling the same mountain at the same speed with the same values. Let's walk together.
And if a couple of the qualities don't quite match, like it's not quite 150,000, it's 125,000 or 80,000, ask yourself what that 150,000 represented to you. It meant someone who's ambitious and hardworking and has drive and vision, and maybe they're on their way up to a different trajectory.
Or maybe that number was just a number that you used to make sure that you weren't underselling yourself. Right. But you realize that the truth is,
maybe it's 35,000 and a school teacher.
If you own your house, you don't need anywhere near as much as that. So it's being courageous to ask the universe. It's that, what would you ask for if you knew you could not fail? If there was a button in front of you and all you had to do was push it and the universe would give you whatever you wanted, what would you really ask for? Then the notion is that whatever it is that you're really attracted to, that fantasy that you have, what you really want is to be the mirror opposite, the mirror image, the match, the doppelganger for that. You want to be the kind of person who can bring that into your life.
Yes.
And it is in heading in that direction that you set yourself free. And this is where, I want to get to the end of these things, look at one other person to understand history, understand what is your theory of male and female relationships. It is critical to remember, if your theory of men and women puts one or the other side down. If I'm a man and I think women are dogs, if I think that, I'm going to either attract a woman who thinks men are dogs, that's what I really deserve, or I'm going to attract some poor, broken little woman who's going to follow at my heels and just do everything I say because she doesn't want to be a dog. You don't want to eat. Both of those things are poison.
I have a favorite comedian named Bill Burr. I listen to a lot on Sirius Radio, and I happened to tune into his podcast the other day, just when he was talking about this issue, because I've known him as a comedian who would say very nasty things about women playfully, but still consistently.
Yes.
And then in later years, I realized he was married, and I knew that some transition must have taken place, and I had never been aware of what that transition was. And I had my question answered listening to his podcast, because he literally was saying, I used to go around saying women are psychos. And then finally, he stopped and he got self-reflective about it. And he realized, well, wait a minute. He's the one choosing these women. So what's wrong with him?
Yes.
Right? And once he did that, he turned a corner. I'm always so excited when I hear people who were formerly very vocal about being cynical about relationships have these epiphanies and realize, oh, wait, it's not a lie. It's not like a naive dream. It's not a Hollywood hope. Love and soulmates really are possible.
So Annie says, income is often a symbol for other things like security or a type of lifestyle. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's hunting and gathering. Once again, go back to the animal phase of it. If one animal is sitting on the nest, the other one has to go out and hunt and gather. Otherwise, they're both hunting and gathering together. There is nothing wrong with saying, I want someone who can hunt and gather with me. That translates in our world into money.
No, absolutely do. And that doesn't even necessarily mean that you make equal income or any of that stuff, but just this partner, because if you lie to yourself and say, well, everything on the list fits except there's no drive, no ambition, and no signs that this income is going to change. That's a problem.
The best school teacher in the world is going to max their income out at $80,000, something like this. A hard driving female executive who's pulling down $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year could partner with the best school teacher in the world because she would see herself in him. If I had chosen to become a school teacher, I want to be like him.
Yeah.
And he can look at her and say, wow, if I had not been lit on fire by the teachers who helped me when I was going through school, so I decided I wanted to be that kind of person, I might have been an executive and I'd be pulling down four figures.
Listen, there are people who make very high incomes and spend it as fast as they make it. So the check comes, it's gone. that doesn't represent security to you.
That's right.
So sometimes that $150,000 figure can be deceptive. It's like, no, what you mean is someone who's fiscally responsible,
has a lot of energy, ambition.
Has a lot of energy and ambition. And someone can be very fiscally responsible and have energy and ambition at a far lower salary, and someone can have a very high salary but be fiscally irresponsible and just kind of coasting.
So do not compromise. This will force you to look at every aspect of yourself. If you're attracted to a particular type of body and you don't have that kind of body, ask yourself, what are your behaviors? What's going on? And if you think that it's not fair that people judge you, well, aren't you judging other people? And if you stop judging other people, then, once again, things work out all right. But you have the right to say, I want someone who has the values that I have, who thinks the same things are important. Me personally, there were a number of ladies that I dated. I dated several ladies who were not svelte, who had extra padding. And I felt like a mutant, not because of my feeling about them, but the way they felt about me. If I got up early and was running or exercising, this, that, and the other, why don't I eat this? Why don't I do this? And I realized that literally they felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because I was different from them.
It's not about necessarily even just the appearance. It's the lifestyle that creates the appearance.
Yes.
When I was in graduate school, I had a crush on a guy who was a vegetarian. So I basically gave up red meat. And frankly, he'll tell you, I still don't eat a lot of red meat. No. This was more than 30 years ago because I just like to make it. I don't eat pork for the most part. I had started with bacon, but I'm going to scale it back because, the cholesterol is creeping up. It's like, oh, hello, that's why you don't eat bacon. So some of these lifestyle changes that you make ostensibly to find your soulmate are actually to find yourself. You might find, I don't need to be a red meat eater. I don't need to be a smoker. I do like the way I feel when I exercise 3 times a week. I do like the way I feel when I drink less. And all kinds of lifestyle choices that'll match you to the person you're looking for.
The easiest indicator of where you're going to end up in life is the people you're spending the most time with. And that means that the person, your intimate partner, your soulmate, your husband, your wife, this is a person you're going to be spending so much time with, you might as well be soaking up their habits and attitudes by osmosis.
True.
Just assume you're going to become like them. They're going to become like you. And if you can lift each other up, that's great. But if you're not lifting each other up, you're going to be tearing each other down.
Dragging each other.
So I would say that one of the things you should look for to live a life where you can have a partner where you will be lifting each other up. I will help you. You help me. Let's climb the mountain. So there are those things. So the friend zone. The important thing about the friend zone, the definition of that place where one person wants a relationship more than the other, is that it's going to happen to everybody. No one has a responsibility to love you. No one has a responsibility to do anything other than be polite and courteous and kind.
And in the previous show, we talked about some of those distinctions, about how you approach dating someone who's a friend, whether or not you should approach dating someone who's a friend, sexual relationships with people who were supposedly friends and those kinds of things. It's a dicey place. It's the dream to marry your best friend. That's certainly what I feel like I did. But in reality, Steve was not my best friend. We met at a conference and then we had a long distance courtship. I was still getting to know him during that courtship. I was still getting to know him when we were living in the same house for the first time after we first got married. So he became my best friend, but he wasn't someone I had known for years and there had never been any spark between us. And then all of a sudden I was like, hey, want to go out? That sometimes doesn't work. Often relationships are what they were supposed to be from the beginning, but sometimes you just didn't have enough courage to put yourself out there, and maybe they haven't had enough courage too. So sometimes you can find romance with a friend, but you have to be careful.
You have to be careful. I had a question, a lady saying that she was very attracted to a spiritual teacher, and he seemed to keep a little bit of a distance, and she wondered what could be done about that. You had some very specific thoughts about that, and we're going to be applying these tools and these notions, but let's take that as a specific instance. What's your thought about that?
Well, if the spiritual teacher is keeping a distance, it might be out of a sense of ethics, because no matter what ages are involved, teacher-student relationships do have an air of sort of an unethical nature, because the teacher is in such a power position over the student, especially when you're talking about a spiritual guide. This is such a special thing. That's why I get so enraged when I hear about priests or other spiritual guides taking advantage of parishioners or pastors taking advantage of parishioners, because it's like, no, they're coming to you for help. You don't, that's not where you strike, you know?
Look, I can tell you that if I had a client who was coming to me for spiritual counseling or any other kind of counseling, and they became attracted to me, or we became attracted to each other, I would send them to another teacher.
That's what I was about to say. So when that spiritual guide student relationship is over,
yes,
then maybe you can better determine, is there a room for something else? But while that relationship exists, it's actually probably to that teacher's credit that they're keeping some distance.
Absolutely. And so if you're going to do it, it should be done completely above boards. Just be careful about adultery. Be careful about having to keep secrets.
Oh no,
be
if it's
careful
a secret,
about him
then that's a sign that it's not a good idea.
Dating multiple people at one time. Understand, but in general, stay away from it. If you really, really want to do it, then I would say find a different spiritual teacher and go to that teacher and say, listen, I'm very interested in you. Would you go out to dinner with me? I'm willing to have another teacher substitute that place, so I'm not confusing the path for the guide.
And maybe that teacher will be like, oh, thank goodness I feel the same way. Or maybe they really weren't interested. So that's where we go back to when you make an advance and then you're rebuffed.
Well, that's the friend zone stuff.
Having to sort of take a deep breath and say, okay, this is not personal. This does not mean I'm not worthy of love. It just means that in this particular case, this person is not the right person for me right now.
And remember that there is no friend zone, really. There are just friends.
Yes.
People who, if they're the kind of person that you would really be attracted to, the chances are they have friends that are like them. And one of those friends could be exactly who you're looking for. If you know that the feelings you're looking for are actually coming from within you, you will not think that there is any one person you must have triggering grief, triggering fear, triggering anger. So don't get triggered. Just deal if you feel some discomfort, some pain. That's life. And understand that to a certain degree, sales is a numbers game where you have to knock on a certain number of doors before you sell a vacuum cleaner. You're going to have to date a certain number of people before you find the person who is your partner, potential partner. And you're going to have to ask a certain number of people before you get a date. It's just a number. So, be an adult about that. Don't take it so personally. By taking care of yourself first, you're not going in a needy way. And that's critical, to not be needy. So let's take a look at what the hero's journey and the hero's journey regarding relationships, because it's a fantastic pattern. See, heroes confronted with a challenge. Initially, they reject it, then they accept it. They set out on the road of trials, during which they meet allies and gain powers. They have their initial confrontation with evil, in which they are defeated. They enter the dark night of the soul. They take the leap of faith. They encounter evil again, and this time they're victorious. And last step is a student becomes a teacher.
Yeah, the next thing you know, you'll be giving advice to someone else about how to find a relationship.
Or just being a healthy role model. I know so many people who say, basically, I don't know any healthy relationships. Well, get into a healthy relationship. Let your enthusiasm shine so that people can see. I mean, I make no secret of how much I adore my wife. I make no secret also of the time that I'm occasionally annoyed with her.
I know he talks about it really a lot.
Yeah, I do. But I'm annoyed with her less often than I'm annoyed with myself.
So here's the deal. Steve is a lot more open about talking about his personal life than I am. This kind of thing comes a lot more naturally to him, whereas I'm pretty much kicking and screaming most of the way. The reason I agreed to do this course, and it took some time. We've had fits and starts to do a Soulmates course. It's like, is it long enough after 10 years? Is it long enough after 15 years? After 20 years?
It's like, I think it's time.
Okay, we better hurry up while we still can. But more importantly, it was this idea that we hear from so many people, because we do webinars and we do appearances together, that it means so much to them to see our relationship, to see the love that we have for each other. And although I try not to take it for granted when you're living with someone every day, sometimes you just don't see it. Whereas to the outside world, they're like, wow, how do I get that? So really, we're doing this course, for me at least, in that spirit,
yes,
to help other people see, yes, this is real. None of this is an act. And we believe that the journey that we're trying to advise you on can help you find it too.
Before we did this show today, I said it to Naomi. I said, what is our intent? What is our intent? And what came up was that our intent is to help as many people as possible.
Absolutely. We want to help.
It's just like, I think that life does not owe us all being world-class athletes or being rich, but I do believe that almost everybody can find lasting love. I believe that if you will follow this process, which, it's hard because life is hard in some ways. I mean, you're going to expend this energy and this effort and take this time regardless. Why not spend it crafting a life that is of actual meaning to you? Why not, what I can promise you is that every day of my life, I give gratitude for the woman that God gave me. This right here, this is what I was looking for, people.
And thank you, Annie, for that comment about how adorable we are and inspiring. We're glad that you feel that way. I certainly feel inspired. I feel incredibly blessed also to have found Steve, and also we have our son and his daughter.
Yes, and my daughter.
So
it's
what I wanted. It's what I wanted. It's not what everybody wants. Somewhere along the way, you may decide it's not exactly what you want because you fall so in love with yourself and you're having such a great time that you're like, I'm good. But assuming you're still on that soulmate course, it really is possible, and we believe you can do it.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to walk through the 10 steps of the hero's journey, and we're going to talk about everything that we've been doing in terms of these 10 steps.
Do they know what the hero's journey is?
Okay, well, I just went over it.
I mean, okay, but
the first step is...
Well, it's Joseph Campbell and how he came up with the idea.
Well, Joseph Campbell was, I believe, a cultural anthropologist who studied myth patterns from all over the world, and he realized that there was a consistent pattern underneath them. And he called this the hero's journey, that consistent pattern. And I believe that pattern is the older people of the village telling the younger people of the village, this is what life is going to be.
So usually you hear the hero's journey taught in the context of teaching. That's how I usually use the hero's journey. But right now we're creating the soulmate's journey. So you can use those same steps that screenwriters and writers all over the world have decided is what story looks like. These steps are what a satisfying story looks like.
And so what we're saying is that if you will organize that this is the path between you and the next level of your life. And that if you will organize whatever resources you have in this pattern, you will then optimize your results. Now, we've given you some additional resources, and they are some powerful resources, but you will have other resources. It doesn't matter as long as you take care of or you anticipate each of these 10 steps. So the first one is you're going to be confronted with a challenge. That challenge is becoming an aware, awakened adult human being.
Yeah, part of the reason you're here is that you're not happy with either your relationship or your lack of a relationship, and you're looking for a change.
Or you're happy and you want to stay happy. You're happy and you want to be happier. Right. And God bless those of you who did it for that reason, because what that means is you really love your partner and you don't want to take that partner for granted. Fantastic. So, being confronted with that challenge, to recognize that it is a challenge to become an adult human being capable of mating with another adult human being, not playing games in that sense. To just recognize that pattern is there, that challenge is there, and that a huge amount of the way the world is organized is based around helping people recognize and face that particular challenge. The next step is the rejection of the challenge, because there is fear associated with any change that will actually transform your life, because your ego will die. You'll become a new person. Anybody who's been in a relationship for a long time will tell you it was not what they expected. It called for more of their capacities than they ever thought that it would. It was...
Make a list. I don't have time to make a list.
It was more costly than they could have imagined, but hopefully worth it.
Or even little things like you feel like you don't have time to do our weekly assignments or all of our meditations, and you're just like, I don't need to do that.
So
the next is
accepting the challenge.
Accepts the challenge.
Fear and all that I'm afraid of changing. I'm afraid of moving forward. But what I want is the greatest degree of intimacy I can possibly have with a life partner, a friend with the deepest kind of benefits, a person who I can relish visually and tactily and olfactorily and gustatorially, who I can love completely, who is my business partner, my helpmate, raise children or do this, whatever it is that you want to do. That's the partner that you want, and you're going to get as much of that as you possibly can. You accept that challenge. Do you accept that assignment? The answer should be yes, because this is your one life. There is a price for everything that you ask for in life, and the price is always paid in advance. So just say, I'm going to do it. And then we're going to sit down and show you how. So the next step is the road of trials. Now, this is kind of an interesting one because I got a comment back from somebody over on the page that basically we talked about the morning ritual. Now, the morning ritual is the way you set yourself up every day to have a day that has a particular kind of energy, kind of focus, so forth. And somebody said, well, that's great for people with a steady schedule, but I work 2 jobs and I never know who I'm going to be working. I don't have 10 minutes a day to do that. Well, what you're saying is I don't have time to have a relationship. Why are you talking to me? If you don't have 10 minutes a day by yourself to get yourself set up for the day, you do not have time to have a relationship. Relationships take time and energy. So the first thing you would have to do is I want to be the kind of person who can have a relationship. I want a relationship. I then have to be the kind of person who can have a relationship. One of those things that is required is time, emotional resources. So I need to start organizing my life so that I have the time to be able to give to someone.
Or learning flexibility. If I can
Yeah,
throw in a
no,
quick
please,
anecdote.
absolutely.
Back in my single days, the fun part of being on book tour and why it's no longer as fun is because I never knew who I would meet. And I was in one city and met a radio commentator, a guy who really loved my books. He worked for the radio, had a great job. I thought, I'm gonna ask him out, right? And I was only gonna be in town for, another night or so. And I asked him out to dinner. And he just said, oh, I can't. I go cycling. Okay. Now, I thought, wow, dude, seriously, the way you were looking, like you seemed so entranced earlier, but you can't make 2 hours to have a dinner that might lead to something. Or now maybe he just figured, I don't live in town. She lives far away. This is never going to work. He might not have even seen me as a prospect. But I moved across the country, for my relationship. So I was more flexible. Maybe he was too inflexible, or maybe he was just as flexible as he thought he needed to be. But the point is,
so
we never went out to dinner.
Here's the thing. People have the time for whatever they consider to be valuable, the things that they believe will increase their pleasure in life. So the process that we have set up can begin with 5 minutes. The 5-minute miracle, the thing of setting your phone timer or your watch timer for 3 hours, and every 3 hours you stop and you breathe deeply, deep, slow diaphragmatic breaths for just 60 seconds once every 3 hours. You do that and you will move out of that sense of constant emergency and start being able to have a little breathing room. If while you're doing that breathing, you're also focusing on what it is that you want in life. Let's say, you want a job where you're not having to work 2.5 jobs. You want a relationship. You want more energy and a healthier body. You can visualize those things without taking a lot of time. Once again, it boils down to 5 minutes. You will start, because of the way the brain is set up, the reticular activating mechanism, you will begin to see opportunities, ways to make your time more to conserve time, ways to begin to ask yourself, what are the 10 to 20% most important things that are getting everything else done? Let me just focus on those 20% of things. And so you can say, I'm up to my ears right now, but in a year, I'm going to be in a position where I will be able to call my own shots. Okay, so it's like I'm not in a position to have a relationship now, but I will move to a position where I can have that. What is necessary in order to get there? That's the road of trials, is the steps that you take day by day, every day, in order to move yourself forward. It's just the work that you do, the chop wood, carry water. Then the next step 5, is allies and powers. What you have done, every single one of you, has made a decision that you wanted this, and you have allowed us to be your allies in both providing a role model of 2 people who actually are in love, that have been in love for 20 years and are still in love, and also to the powers, specific techniques that we have offered you. There have been a bunch of them, and you will find others. I've brought you the best stuff that I've got to help with these things, but you will find other things. Number 6, confront evil and be defeated. This might be finding yourself in the friend zone and feeling.
Yeah, you thought you'd done everything right. You made your move and you got slapped down. It sucks.
It sucks.
It hurts.
Of course it hurts because you actually care.
But it happened to me, I swear, like a week before I met Steve. I got slapped down and I got over it. I got over it because I had followed my rules.
And I had to pay that guy dearly. I told him, if you don't slap her down, I'm going to have to kill you, but I'll give you $1,000.
Right.
Just break her heart so she'll be ready for me.
Just remember, it doesn't mean that it's all for nothing. It doesn't mean you won't find something else. Sometimes it's just a test to get you ready for the real one.
You know, when I was breaking into writing, I recognized that it was going to take me a lot of stories to be able to break into the field, and that the voices in my head were testing me. I had a friend named Tim Peering who said that you can accomplish anything if you have two things. One, you know, your goals written and plans for their written goals and plans for their accomplishment, and the second, the ability to take action despite the voices in your head.
Right.
So one of the things that I needed was to give myself the room to fail. So it was, how many stories am I going to write and send out before I even ask myself if I should quit? And I you know, the people who'd actually been on the path, what I've been hearing was somewhere between 30 and 40 stories. So I gave myself 100 stories. I said, I'm going to write 100 stories before I even give myself a chance to fail.
It probably won't take you 100 dates if that's where you think this story is going. But the point is that in readiness and understanding, in fact, the inevitability of rejection is what enables you to go out and face the rejection.
And if it took 100 dates, if you were having a date every weekend, that's 2 years. 2 years to set up the rest of your life. If you're willing to postpone things, if you're willing to pick yourself up that many times, you are the kind of person who I would consider unstoppable. You're going to get what you're looking for.
You kids are so lucky today with your dating sites. So you actually could find that people.
you do understand that the objective qualities that you're looking for, whether it has to do with your body or your career, is largely about tolerance for failure. You know, creativity. Can you try something else and fail? And then try something else and fail. And then try something else. How many times are you willing to get back up and do it? And when it comes to this, I want you to think about this. Some of you have had children, or you have watched children, or you had little brothers and sisters. How many times does a parent let their kid fall down when they're trying to learn to walk before they say, I guess that kid's never going to walk? The answer is as many as it takes. The kid, you know, the kid will fall down and then will look at their parents to see, how am I supposed to feel about the fact that I fell down? If the parents say, good baby, the baby will laugh and smile. If the parents say, oh no, the baby will cry. So if you have a date and you're your best person and you've got your antenna up, and because you've been honest with yourself about your path, you're starting to pick up on people's behavior, what it means, and the silence between the words. You're starting to get, so you can feel this person isn't for me, or you
trusting your instincts.
You think this person is for me, but they don't respond to you, right. or you think they're for you, they think you're for them. You date for a while and things don't work out. Whatever it is that happens, learn from it. Extract the knowledge from the situation. If you extract the understanding from the situation, you can let go of the pain. He said, I learned. What did I learn? Take everything that you have learned from your past, extract the knowledge from it, and invest it in your future. You paid for that with your pain, your tears. You deserve to be happy. So make sure you've learned those lessons. Just don't make the same mistake twice.
Right.
What you got there?
No, we're just looking at the next step on the hero's journey. I've got it written out for everybody.
So you will be defeated. You will have your heart broken. You will be betrayed. You'll be in the friend zone. You have to love yourself enough to pick yourself up, nurture yourself, heal, and get back into the
And
fray.
the dark night of the soul, which is the next step,
yes.
is just when you're sort of sitting with the grief and the pain. It won't flash as much or as hard as it might have without the work you've been doing. But yeah, stinging is stinging. And you have to sit with the sting. To numb yourself so that you can't feel anything is another barrier to being open to love. So the grief will come, the sting will come. That's what people call the dark night of the soul. How do you get out of the dark night of the soul? The leap of faith. That's
right, the leap of faith. So the faith is faith in your own heart. So that means you spend more time doing that ancient child meditation, more time doing that heartbeat meditation, more time doing things that bring you joy, in order to find the place from which you can have the faith that this too shall pass. there's someone out there for you, that you talk to people who found lasting love and find out they had their hearts broken too. How many times do they have their hearts broken? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever it is. You start actually understanding that this is the path. There's nothing unusual about it. You will survive, more than survive, if you find the right person. It's going to make everything just worthwhile. It's like, oh my God, it's so wonderful when you find it. You have to look at the fact that there are people who have that around you, and find a way to love yourself enough to believe that you too can have this thing that every chipmunk in the woods seems to be able to find, and human beings find so difficult.
So the next one is confront, but when we say confront evil, we mean go on another date. Facing the possibility of rejection. But this time, after your leap of faith, maybe it won't be a week later like it was for me. It was a really dramatic turnaround. This time you will succeed.
And here's the whole thing. Ruth just nailed it. Ruth got it completely. The worst that happens if you follow this process is you'll be a happier, healthier, better human being.
That's the whole idea.
That's the worst that can happen. That's not so bad.
That's not so bad.
And when you realize, it's the moment when you're happy with who you are, that you are radiating that energy because your cup is full. That's when you walk into a room and people turn around and say, "Who is that?"
Hey.
And that happens. And when you've got, when you're happy with your body, other people are thinking, maybe I'd be happy with that body too. I mean, do you look at Melissa McCarthy? She does not have your typical skinny Hollywood body, but I get the feeling that woman would be fun. You know what I'm talking about? It's like she's rocking it.
What's happened with you, Melissa McCarthy?
No, it's Lupita that's my favorite.
Oh, okay.
It's that sense of being full of joy, full of life, full of energy is intoxicating. And if this one person isn't interested, move to the next one. If that person is interested, move to the next one.
You are floating on your fabulousness, baby. That's all this is about. And so, of course, the last step is the student becomes the teacher.
That's
Either
right.
you are now explaining to other people how to find love, or just by your very example in existence, you are giving other people hope so that they can do the same work that you have done to find love. I moved this a little bit. So yeah, I think we're caught up on the comments, but that is the Soulmate's journey. Those 10 steps. And all of you are on different steps of the journey.
And within each step, there is another complete cycle. You set up your journey such that no matter, even if that person does not show up, every single day you are living the life you wanted to live. You use the idea of another person to awaken you from the dream of complacency. So you realize you've got one life. One life.
Yeah, one example would be, like, let's say you have a problem with clutter, like we have from time to time, and it's super important to you that your partner not be a cluttered person, that you feel like you need an ordered space. So in following our advice, that means, oh, well, if I want to mirror that, then I need to keep a more ordered space. Guess what? Now you're living in a more ordered space where you feel happier with yourself. You don't feel like your space is an insult to you or something that you're trying not to notice. And it just makes your life better. So what's not to like? You have a more ordered space.
If there's anything on the list, if you look at a person who you are very attracted to and you realize, I would not want to become the mirror of this person, you might want to take another look at, then why did I want that person? If I did not want a body that's that healthy, if I did not want that much success, if I did not want that much emotional joy, although that's a hard one to think about, what's going on that I'm attracted to it? If you change in life, if your actions are not headed towards a goal, either change your actions or change the goal.
I don't know.
Because if you're going in two different directions at the same time, you're going to tear yourself to pieces. You're headed for misery.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
No, go. You're right. You got something on the tip of your tongue.
I don't want to cut you off.
No.
They say opposites attract, and sometimes that's true. But do opposites sustain? Is the question, right?
That was
fire.
Oh,
dropping fire.
Got anything else? No, you go.
My ex-boyfriend, God bless him, he was a very social person. I'm not always that social, as Steve will tell you. I'm a homebody. I am a homebody. So in the beginning of our relationship, it was kind of fun and cool that he had to be the last person to leave every party. You know what I mean? Like wanted to dance all night long. By the end of the 4 years, believe me, I was not as excited about being the last one at the party. I guess like when I was ready to leave, he wasn't ready to leave. And that's where the paths begin to diverge. That's where the long-lasting nature of the relationship is at risk when you're overlooking. Like something seemed attractive but wasn't really on your list. Like was it really something that you wanted or want to live with? Some people are always traveling and do a lot of business. I've been doing a lot of publicity and this kind of stuff for this documentary, Horror Noir. Oh, you can't see the poster. Oh, well, on the wall. If Steve needed to feel like I was here all the time, if Steve couldn't stand all of the publicity I was doing.
And there are times that it stings. If you don't think that there isn't a voice inside me, because I'm a writer too, right? And I've had a lot of success, and you guys know. But there are times, where it's like, Hollywood is calling her, and there's a part of me that's thinking, why not me? That little boy inside you. And the trick is that I can talk to Tananarive about my insecurity. I can talk to her about any part of that stings. And and by doing that, I can keep the ego stuff in its proper place. It has nothing to do with our love. It has nothing to do with us.
But I will tell you where it might not work.
What's that?
Is if you were like needing to be in a small town and couldn't stand Hollywood and found it all like, oh my God, we have to dress up and go to a premiere.
And frankly, my first marriage hit.
Well, I wasn't going to go there, but okay.
No. Tony wanted a quieter life. I'm not a quiet environment.
Yeah, we don't have.
We had to let each other go.
We don't have a quiet life at all. So yeah, be honest with what you need and don't put up with something in the right now if you don't think it can last into the later. That's what soulmates are all about. They're about the lasting nature. It's not fair to go into a relationship expecting that your partner will have to change to sustain the relationship. I mean, all of us need to change a little bit, but major changes usually don't happen. You might be capable of major changes, but that doesn't mean that everyone you meet will be.
So you look at the changes you'd need to make in order to be the energetic doppelganger of your desire and ask yourself, would you be happy being that person? Would you be happy living your life that way? Would you be a better version of yourself?
Ellen K has a question. I know you'll hate to answer this, honey, because it's about working out.
Uh-oh.
He hates talking about working out.
I do. Oh, God. Exercise. Oh, no.
He loves, oh, my God, Ellen, you're asking the right person. Haven't worked out in a long time, so having a problem getting started. Small apartment, no dreams or goals currently, so I need an external push to get started.
Okay.
Any
so
ideas?
Your first goal is to have a goal. You bootstrap yourself. Anytime you don't have goals, that's the first thing you do. You say something to the effect of, by this time next year, I'll have a goal. So a starter goal is to double your energy. Just a starter goal.
Have more energy.
Have more energy. Double your energy. I'm going to be, I understand that's a subjective thing. There's no real way to measure it, but it's a nice thing. Oh, I want to have twice as much energy as I have now. Who doesn't want more energy?
You've heard the stories about how you get the endorphins and it makes you energized. So I would call that short term is more energy. And if you're the kind of person where it's helpful to think long term, unrelated to the soulmate even, regular exercise is medically proven to do everything from lower cholesterol, improve heart health. There's a whole list of stuff. So if you're at all concerned about what your doctor's appointments will be like when you're in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, then starting a habit of working out is a great idea when you're younger. And the general is 3 times a week, right?
Well, no, here's the whole thing. I think that you should be like your ancestors. That is that you don't eat unless you move. So the idea should be you do some movement every day, let's say 6 days a week, but it doesn't have to be much. The fact is that a small amount, we're talking 5-10 minutes, done regularly, can accomplish miracles. So understand a couple of different things. One is that there's a difference between health and fitness. So work on health. I will give you one advice. You go over to YouTube and you look up joint mobility Sonnen, Sonnon. SONNON. There is a whole range of exercises that are called joint mobility drills that will give you about 80% of the benefits of Tai Chi or Qigong in a fraction of the time and with a fraction of the experience. And you don't need a teacher for it. What you need is to begin the process of engaging with your body on a daily basis. If a more alive body sets you up in so many different ways, and there is a whole world of other things that you can do. But if you will start with that, you will not be disappointed.
I'm also suggesting kettlebells. You're saying you have a small apartment. For a long time, we had a treadmill. I like treadmills when I'm at hotels, but they are big and they're bulky in an apartment. Kettlebells are weights. I wasn't a big weight fan, but Steve got me turned on to kettlebells. And if you find the right, there's one called the Busy Woman's Workout. And you can do it for 4 minutes, for 8 minutes, or they call it 10 minutes, but really the time it takes is more.
So I was asked whether or not my fitness, how does my focus on fitness work for Tananarive? Tananarive was in shape when I met her. I watched the way she danced. I watched the way her body moved. She was a healthy animal and healthy body. I said, her values are going to be like mine. Her energy is like mine.
I did not have daily workout discipline. In my mind, it's still that 3 times a week cardio, although I have started doing more. Typically, if I'm really on my game, I'm doing 3 cardio and a yoga, right, every week. But I was at least doing that. So while, yes, sometimes it was a little strange if I'd wake up and first thing in the morning, there he was doing his weights. It was like a level of discipline, trust me, I was not accustomed to, but I admired it. I didn't feel like it was like, oh my God, what's wrong with him? Is he going to expect me to do that? I admired it, and watching him and his workout ethic, especially with yoga, has been super helpful to me.
Yoga is something, is a fantastic health discipline and a fantastic foundation for fitness, but it's also a great organizing factor for meditation and philosophy and other things. So find something that you will do. Let's say that you start by saying, I'm going to double my energy. I'm going to make a commitment to an hour a week. Okay, that's just 10 minutes.
Taking a walk
10 minutes
a
day
around the track. Oh, right.
Just 10 minutes a day.
Walking up and down the street. I like the idea of taking a class. I don't like gyms, I have to confess. That's why I have the treadmill at home. That's why I use the kettlebell at home. I have never had a relationship with a gym where it's like, yeah, this is great. But I have had a relationship with a yoga class. And the reason I do suggest some sort of a public class of some kind is because obviously you can meet people in these classes and meet people who have similar goals. Like, oh, I want to get into yoga.
So in terms of anything that you're going to do regularly, I can't think of anything that takes less time to give you an optimal effect than exercise of one kind or another. In other words, a couple hours a week, and you've come pretty close to maxing out, the time efficiency thing. After that, you start getting diminished returns. But for the first 2 hours a week, that's just, it's an amazing payoff. If you have a hard time doing it regularly, and this is going to be the same thing for any of these processes, whether it's meditation or exercise or any of the habits that are changing for you, the more reasons you have to do something, the easier it is to motivate you to do it. So you get a journal and you say, I want to X. And then you say, you lift all the reasons that you want to X, and they should be emotionalized reasons.
You might be pre-diabetic and you want to bring that level down. You want to bring that cholesterol level down. There's so many great reasons
but
to
that's
exercise.
Avoidance of pain. Okay, you need both avoidance of pain. I don't want to be sick,
right.
And you need the pleasure. I'll have better sex. I'll be able to climb that mountain.
I'll be able to fit into that dress I wore when I was 25.
That's right. I'll be able to take that dance class.
Yes.
I'll be able to do this. I'll be able to do this. And you visualize the positive results of whatever the discipline is. I don't have discipline, really. What I have is hunger. I have identified myself as a particular type of person. I am a father. I am a teacher. I am a martial artist. Those are things that I am a husband and lover. I am those things. To not be those things then starts destroying my identity. I am willing to risk pain if I don't live up to something in order to have the discipline or the regularity in order to accomplish something. So, but once again, if you say, well, I don't have the discipline to do X, Google is your friend. You start doing research. How do people gain discipline? This is where modeling comes in. Whatever you want to do, Find somebody who can already do it. Find out what their values and beliefs and attitudes and filters and habits and tactics and strategies are, and start doing that stuff. Start associating with people who do the kinds of things you want to do. You need better balance of your finances. Start spending more time with the person in your circle who has the best finances. You want to be more physical? Start spending more time with people who are more physical. Whatever it is that you want, if you want to find a relationship, start spending time with people who are in relationships so that you can understand what the difference is. And it won't be some one person. It'll be a number of people so that you can extract the things that are the same about all of them. It might, well, this person met somebody in church, and I don't go to church, so I guess I can't have a relationship. No, but this person met one on their job, and this person met one on the bus, and this person, and this person, and this person. And you start saying, oh, what happens is you are ready to be in a relationship. And that's when you meet someone. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the lover is ready, the beloved will appear.
That's great. And I love what Grant is saying, going back to our earlier conversation about working out. He tied his meditation to the exercise bike sessions. That's a great idea.
Why not?
I think so. Good for you.
It is.
You found a way to do it. Tish, thank you. You're saying these hours have been such great models and inspiration. Our joy and laughter are infectious. Well, good.
That's great.
And thank you both with huge love. Well, thank you all for being here, for believing in us, and most importantly, for believing in yourselves.
Believing in yourselves. If you have questions, you know how to contact us.
Facebook.
The things that you say to us, the questions you ask of us are going to help us help other people. So do not be shy. Our commitment is to helping people. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping me do just that.
And good luck as you find new and more exciting ways to love yourself,
yes,
leading you on the path to meeting your soulmate.
Love yourselves, people, because we love you.
Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you on Facebook.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.